Hello, class. Welcome to the week 5 grading. This one is a little bit later than the others. I've just gotten over a cold that's lasted a tad over 2 weeks, which has been really terrible. Since I've been coughing, I haven't been able to record any videos. So I've just been, sitting there being miserable. And now finally that's over. It's time to get back to class and start rolling along. I've been seeing you guys posting the extra credit journals. Keep that up. It's a great way to get those extra points. I'll be taking a look a little later in the semester. We're coming up to the halfway point, and so I'll start looking over whether you guys need some extra credit so you get a chance to practice some more skills. If you feel like you're lagging behind, it will also give you an opportunity to, get out there and boost your grade. That said, let's take a look at the brushes. This is a pretty straightforward assignment. It's a lot of little pieces of brushes, and I think I covered pretty much everything in the videos. So what I'm going to be looking for, let me show you the old example file here that I put up. What I'm really looking for is a variety of brushes, and I need to make sure that there's a dab and some strokes to show off how the brushes work. This is the one that I had up online. You can see that this has some jitter in it that's controlling the size, and then the pressure is going on. You don't have to have pressure. It's acceptable to do things like a couple of different capture brushes and then just change settings in it so that you can show that the capture brushes you understand beyond just the capture brush. So what I mean by that, of course, the capture brush is just a photo, but all those settings inside of the brushes, if we were to go over to our brush, there's brush settings in here. And there's just a million things you can do. You can have scattering and textures, and you can have color dynamics and transfers of the paper and all that. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. The thing that I should not see is just 6 capture brushes that don't do anything differently, that they've just grabbed different colors or something, and that all the settings seem to be the same. And that's something I was warning about in the assignment videos. And this is the case for many of the assignments throughout the semester. If you did a lot of work, but everything looks the same, then even though you put in the time, if it doesn't reflect it, even unfairly doesn't reflect it because you put the time in, you need to reevaluate how you're doing that assignment and approach it a little bit differently. Sometimes the solution may not take as much work as you think, but it will demonstrate that you understand what's going on. And that's a warning I put out a lot. And in this case, the thing that you don't want to have done is to just done 6 capture brushes that have that are not showing any interesting settings. So you have to be careful about that if you just have those strokes. And the reason I'm going on about this for almost 3 minutes now is every semester, despite having warned people again and again and again not to do that, they always seem to do that. And now I don't want you to feel bad if you just didn't have the time or you're having problems grasping some of the concepts in it. That happens a lot. Just go back and re-review the videos and you'll be fine on that. In the case of brushes, honestly, do try to watch all those videos that I put out to give it an idea of what's out there, because later on when you're doing digital artwork, even if it's just with a mouse, even if you're just doing something like a little bit of masking, knowing where those settings exist, even if you can't remember where they are, is going to be massively beneficial. I see such a difference between people that know settings are out there for brushes and people who just have to fiddle with everything every single time. There are professionals out there I've seen just waste 20 minutes of their time because they don't remember that there is a setting that would do exactly what they wanted to do. My videos are out there. You can re-review those later. If you ended up running out of time and just doing 6 capture brushes, so be it. You can still pass this assignment with it. You'll get your grade, but what I'm really looking for again is some variety in these. And if you just have a mouse, I think all of these were done with a mouse actually. Well, no, maybe not that one. Even if you just have a mouse, that's fine. Even if you just did 6 capture brushes, that's fine, as long as you're showing off the settings. And there are plenty of settings out there, so you should be able to do things like the XY jitter and the transfer of texture and all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead and go through. I've got, it looks like A through B for this first set of videos. So if your last name starts with A through B, here we go. Let me just close this. Go. No, don't save that. All right, let's pop over. Okay, so what do we got here? So we have falling leaves, and this looks like a capture brush, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a quick look-see. We've got the dab here, and yeah, it's a nice little leaf structure. This is actually a little dense, so it's a little hard for me to see what's going on here. It looks like the capture brush is changing spacing as it goes through, so that's exciting. This is called Yearmark Impressionism brush, so good for you for naming it. Oh, sorry, no, this is the Falling Leaves brush, so good for you for naming these. That is something that I would like to see so that I can refer to these as we go through. Let's take a look at the Yearmark Impressionist brush. Okay, so whereas this one is following the strokes. Sorry, just a moment. Sorry about that. We've been getting a substantial number of robot calls. FCC's pinned down that it's just a handful of American corporations essentially providing, they're very small companies of like 20 people, providing essentially the ability to spoof being call from a local area to hundreds of thousands of robot phone calls and people from other countries trying to scam us, which is very aggravating when you're trying to record a video. All right, so as I was saying, this one follows the mouse. This one does not follow the mouse as it goes through. These brushes, this brush has a texture to it, which is nice. It looks like the texture, though, is being, again, well, no, wait, I'm sorry. Let's take a closer look. Yes, this texture is being provided by the capture brush. So essentially another capture brush. Not too many setting differences between these two that are obvious. So, you know, try to keep those settings. You know, show me that you know how to do these settings. So here we go. We start getting some wet edges. I'd like to see a little bit more going on than just some dot spacing happening here. It's kind of a boring brush. I'd like to see this be pushed further. This is essentially just a brush with some wet edges on it and not a whole lot going on. It says that it has some noise in it. I'm not seeing too much noise around inside of it. Maybe play with that a little bit more. Try to bring that out a bit more. And now we have some jitter circles. I like this. This is showing some variety going on. That's really good. This actually could be a pretty fun brush for a lot of different things. So good job on that. We have something called Happy Brush, and it is a capture of some text, and it looks like it's following some rotation. Good job on that. And we have, this is interesting, the Dancing Square Brush. This is just a jitter on the rotation, but what I like about it is the slight gradient that they have going on as the blur to create this kind of interesting shadow on it, even though it's a simple confetti brush. So my verdict is good job on the Happy Brush and the Circle Jitter Brush. I think you could have done a bit more work on the Wet Edge Noise Brush. You're starting to get somewhere, but a little bit more time on that would make it a little more interesting. These two brushes are awfully similar. There are very few differences between them. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more exploration done in those. Otherwise, it looks like you're getting the hang of it. Again, I think that this Jitter Circle brush is really fun. I think that you could get a lot out of this one. All right, good job on that. Let's go ahead and move on to the next submission. Oh, before we move on, real quick, are you the correct size? You're 7 by 3 inches at 300 pixels per inch, and you are RGB good for you. All of your layers are named. You do have dabs and strokes on everything. I was able to spot those very easily. Good job on that. There is a clear difference between the majority of the brushes. I would argue that there's not a very clear difference between these two brushes. They do have them, though. They're able to find them. All right. Okay, good job. Let's go ahead and move on to the next submission. Control W, do not save. What we got here? Like the spider. All right, what do we got? We got the spider hairbrush. What is the spider hairbrush? It looks like is this a capture brush? It looks like a capture brush going on, but it's a capture brush built out of what looks like a smaller set of bristle brush. Couldn't say the word for some reason there. So it looks like they started with the bristle brush and then they used the bristle brush to make a capture brush, produce this capture brush. It appears to have a slight jitter in the size, not a whole lot. It seems to follow the path that it's going through. Yep, that's about it going on with the spider hair brush. So it looks like the time was spent building up the initial dab and then capturing it and putting it in. I really like the little doodle of the spider. That's very amusing. Good job on that. Let's go ahead and take a look. We've got scatter brush and we've got a few dabs going on here to show it off. It appears to be a scatter brush made out of, well, that's kind of interesting. I like how you painted with that. That's very nice. This again, it's a capture brush. This capture brush is made out of a series of smaller dabs in order to produce the effect of a capture of an airbrush, which is interesting approach. I like how you structured this so that when you do a turn on the side, it produces more of a hollow effect, so that you can produce what looks like some shading with just the brush. So it's very clever. Pre-thought. Again, I'd probably like to see a little bit more jitter, maybe left to right, but that might ruin the effect that's going on in there. So I get why you wouldn't do that with the brush. So maybe they'll consider whether this, even though this is a nice brush, is this a brush that you'd want to show for this assignment, simply because it's not showing off your full capabilities of editing those brush settings. So again, you may have designed an excellent brush that you're going to use, but is this the brush you want for this assignment? Because this assignment is about showing off that you have the brush settings down. We've got a static brush. Again, this is a lot of work done in the pre-creation stage of the brush itself in order to create it, but it is, again, just another capture brush going on. In this case, they had the static. This person is clearly thinking carefully about how they want the brush to behave for the artwork that they're going to be using for, which is great. You know, this is, in the real world, this is exactly what you're going to be doing. You've got that nailed down. For this assignment, again, though, I really want to see that you've been exploring the settings. I am becoming very suspicious that you did, and then you just picked the brushes that had pre-planning phases done to show that you're able to think your way through the brushes and build them. But again, what I want to see is a demonstration of the brush settings that exploration that you took to get to this point. Let's take a look at our frog feet brush. Again, it's a capture brush, and there's not a big difference going on between this one. Yeah, I'm starting to think you gotta show off those skills of research that you did to get to this point. Here we go. So now we've got a brush that is clearly very different from the rest. This one looks like it may be maybe an erodible brush. Could be a bristle brush potentially going on to make this. That's good. Again, more settings the merrier on this, and we've got the neon brush, and this is just kind of a standard brush. It looks like it may actually be an airbrush going on. It's not labeled as such though. All right, so I would say you've got some big differences between a handful of these. This one's different from this one, which is different from this one, but these guys all have similar behaviors. The techniques that you use to create the different end effect was done in pre-processing rather than the brush settings going in. So you get what I'm saying there? Like, you clearly have an understanding of how these brushes work. You're building these brushes so that you have an actual use for them going in. I appreciate all of that. I think that's really excellent. But what I'm looking for on this assignment specifically is that you're showing off, you know, that you've explored these brush settings, that you know how they go through. That said, I think you're going to be really good with these brushes going in. I think you've got it down. I think you're gonna have a good time. So let's make sure that all the bookkeeping is here. You've got the correct size. You've got everything going on. I'm gonna run this through the rubric. I'm guessing you're getting an A out of this. But you could probably get a higher A if you showed more of what you did to learn how to do this, because that's what I'm looking for. All right, so that's it. Let's go ahead. And so if just to let you guys know, like, it's always possible to get 100 points out of all these assignments. It's kind of hard to get up there, and it should give you an idea. If you hit 90, there was a lot more work you could have done to push it up to the 100 on there. So all right, that said, this is overall pretty good work. I would have liked to have seen more variety like what you were demonstrating between these couple of brushes. I do like that you showed what these brushes were for though. All right, let's move on to the next submission. Just to let you guys know, the first few of these, I always feel like I'm being really harsh on you guys as you're going through, but what it really is just you're the first batch that I'm seeing. So rather than keep saying the exact same thing again and again to everybody that's going through, I say it at the first batch, and this does apply to everyone. Everyone should be keeping this feedback in mind as they're going through. It is... I'm not like trying to pick on someone. I'm just saying, like, this is for everybody. Try to keep in mind what I'm looking for when I say, like, hey, when I spend like an hour of time recording videos showing how to do all these brush settings, I want to see you understand that. And if you do have problems understanding that, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to record some more videos and go into further detail on any of this stuff. All right, but yeah, overall, good job. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. And what do we got here? So we've got, they're not named. I did want them to be named. We got a capture brush. We got a capture brush. We've got a capture brush. We've got a capture brush. We've got a capture brush. This one actually seems to have some spacing changes between it, and we got another capture brush. These are essentially the exact same brush settings as far as I can see. That may not be the case, but again, what I am looking for is a demonstration that you understand how to do these settings. I'm not looking for, you know, if you do a good brush, but that brush doesn't show what I'm trying, what I want you to demonstrate, then it's not going to get you really good grade on that. So yeah, these are just a bunch of different capture brushes. Yeah, one of these would have been great, and then I need you to explore and demonstrate the different brush settings going in. All right, let's take a look. We got the correct size, no labels on any of these. I did want these named going in. Well, as always, something is better than nothing, so good job getting those going. You got some interesting stamps. I like that. It looks like you may have used spent a lot of time making these little images. That's great. But again, I want the brush settings to be demonstrating what's going on. As we saw in the previous submission where we had some different settings going on to create different effects, that's really what I'm looking for here. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And here we go. All right, what do we got? Scatter brush. Ooh, good. Labeled what they are. And you've got a nice scatter brush going on. Nice. Interesting. All right. Like it. Okay, good. I like the texture being created there. We got the scatter brush, random lines. I like the behavior of the brush going on in here. It's interesting. Clear difference between the two behaviors of the brushes. I like that. I like that a lot. We got the cute brush. Just basically just a capture brush. It doesn't seem to change rotation as it follows through, so it's just flat capture brush. Slow-mo brush, this one clearly, yep, so good. This is what I was talking about. I want to see, when I spend that much time talking about all the different settings in something, I want to see that you're experimenting with these settings, and that's what we've got going on here. Good job, good job, good job. And this one is rotating it. Now that's interesting. These leaves look a lot like the leaves from the first set. It's a different set of patterns, but I'm wondering if there is a leaf shape I've forgotten about that, or brush that you guys are using to create the larger set of brushes. So essentially it becomes a capture brush at this point going through. That one's kind of similar to the random lines brush. It just has a different start, but I could see that the spacing difference is occurring here, most likely due to the jitter in the random line brush. All right, and we've got the blood mark brush, which is it's pretty interesting actually going in. I'd be curious to know more about the process for creating it up to here. It almost looks like a multi-pass brush with a size jitter going in, but clear difference between everything. Everything is labeled. Did you get the sizes right? Excellent. Good job. This is the sort of thing I'm looking for. So you got it. It would have been fun to have had some different colors going in like the other students were doing. Like I said, that's always a great way to show that you're playing around a bit, but you clearly were exploring the brush settings. Good job. I was able to spot the dabs and the strokes on everything. This is what I'm looking for. Just to double check again. Yeah, everything's what I'm going for. Even name the file right. Great. Let's go ahead and move on to the next submission. All right. And all right, what do we got here? We've got popcorn. Thank you for naming these, by the way. That is something I'm looking for. We've got the correct size on it. We got popcorn, which is just a capture brush. It follows the stroke. It doesn't seem to do any size or spacing jitter on it, so just flat out capture brush. Okay, everyone gets one. Let's go ahead and take a look over here. We've got some leaves, which if I remember correctly is actually a shape available inside of here. We've got it going on both the size jitter, rotation jitter, and hue jitter happening. I do like that you have the multiple colors going in the process. Good job on those settings so that it's like one dab here is creating multiple colors straight away. So that's interesting. Good job. We got barbed wire. This one is more of a size jitter. This one is, in fact, following the stroke, so you're exploring with that. It's still a little close to the popcorn. Watch out for that. You want to really show off differences in the settings. Here we have XY jitter causing this shift going up and down on it. Creates a very interesting stroke. You're able to, it looks like, yeah, by having a lot of empty space and then having that jitter bounce it around, you're able to produce a brush that creates sort of internal pattern going in that is still readable. It's not completely smeared out. Good job on that. We've got the initials, which are your initials and just kind of captured. Not a big difference again between that one and essentially the barbed wire. There's not a whole lot of settings going on here. It's an interesting stroke, but really that's occurring mostly because of the capture itself. You did do multiple dabs here. Not sure what you're trying to demonstrate on that, but yeah, I'm looking more for like what you were doing between lace and barbed wire and falling leaves. We started to get, the popcorn, barbed wire, and my initials. They have slight differences, but you're not showing off all this stuff, and I can see from the leaves that you spent a lot of time exploring this stuff, so I know that you can show me that. You got there. Let's check out flamingos. Flamingos are a capture brush. Again, very similar to my initials, so I would have liked to have seen a little bit more going on there. I'm thinking, yeah, the time spent on this one was the cleanup in order to get it to become a capture brush, which is nothing to sneeze at. For sure, a lot of time is spent on that. But again, you got to watch out. I'm looking for the settings here to show the exploration. Really, like, you got some great stuff going on in here. You got some great stuff going on here, but then it gets and really good stuff over here. But then you have essentially a smaller version of what was in barbed wire, and then you have the flamingo. The settings don't appear immediately that different from the initials, although the shape of the brush does in fact create a very different texture, which can create some really fun stuff for when you're actually painting and creating imagery inside of Photoshop. So hang on to that. I am looking more for like what you were doing over here for this assignment, just to show that you were exploring all the settings and everything in the brushes. Overall, though, good work. Good job on that. Great. That's it for the A through B. So I'm going to pick up on a next video set. I do hope everyone always checks out the first set of videos, because that is the one where I talk a lot about like what's happening and what I'm looking for. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next submission and the next video. I'll see you guys soon.